Hey guys, Bridget here. In this video, we're going to create this iOS app from scratch using Figma. So by the end of this video, you're going to learn tips and tricks and workflows that I used over the past decade working as a UI UX designer. And by the way, just before we get started, I want to remind you that I recently launched a free course on how to get started in UI UX design. So if you want to join this field, feel free to check it out in the link in the description. But now without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So we're back in Figma, and the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a frame. We're going to select the iPhone 13 Pro Max, and we're going to double click on the layer's name and rename it to 1. So let's get started, and the very first thing that we're going to lay it out is going to be the my home text. So let's write it over here, and we're going to use Lato for this specific up. So let's increase the font size just a little bit. We're going to make it bold and adjust the size. And the very next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually apply a layout grid, and we're going to select the columns, and we're going to add 2 columns, give it just a little bit of a margin so that we can have some breathing room in the design, and we're going to make it fully gray. All right. So this is working pretty well so far. Now, one more thing that we need to add before we continue with the rest is we need a arrow, which we're going to add right here. We're going to leverage Nucleo Icons, which is a free icon management software that enables you to find icons in pretty much no time. So we need to find an icon of an arrow, which might work well in this scenario. So I'm probably going to go with this one right here. So let's just unframe it. I'm going to bring it over here, and I'm going to make it black like the text. Let's just make it just a tiny bit smaller. And in just a second, we're also going to add a top level menu. But before we do that, let's add a rectangle right here, which is going to be the main section for this app. Let's round up the borders just a bit. We're going to give it, actually before we give it a linear gradient, I'm going to select and try to find the right color hue for this specific project. And now I'm going to make the linear gradient so that it's just going to be a bit easier. Let's make it diagonal. And I'm going to select this one, make it just a tiny bit lighter, so we have this nice effect. Now let's bring the text over here on the top. I'm going to write 319, and let's make this one smaller. Let's call it primary. Let's extend it, and I'm going to make it white. All right, so far so good. Let's duplicate this. I'm going to make this 3 degrees, and this one's going to be called secondary. All right, so far so good. Let's group all of these together. Let's make it vertical. I think this is heading towards the right direction. It's time to duplicate this element one time. I'm going to give it probably, I'm going to stretch it outside of the grid. And I'm going to give it some extra padding below. Now let's duplicate also this element. Let's bring it over here. Let's just write primary. Let's make it smaller. We're going to give it 2 icons over here. First one is going to be something related to primary. Yeah, this could work. And then we need the 3 dots. So we don't need the animated ones. These ones are going to work just fine. And let's stack them vertical. So these are the famous kebab dots, and actually the kebab menu navigation or meatballs. So all right, let's cut this short with the jokes and let's continue with this icon right here. And I'm going to make it 50% opacity for when it comes to this case. Let's bring this guy over here, and let's bring this element more towards the left. All right, maybe let's make it just a little bit bigger. And so far so good. Let's group this together, and I'm going to create another one which spans all the way on the right. Here we're going to write good morning for no reason whatsoever. We're doing a freestyle with this app, so yeah, why not? I'm going to write here education, and let's find an icon. Maybe this one could serve our goals. And let's make it white, maybe a little bit smaller. I'm going to bring it over here. All right, so the app is definitely taking shape. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to bring this element right here, and we're going to write favorite accessories, and let's bring this below. Let's write in money, and we're going to figure out okay, we definitely don't need that. Let's bring this guy over here, this other element here, and we're going to find some more of these. Maybe let's just bring this one. Let's increase the size overall. All right, let's center it. And let's distribute horizontally. We're going to make them blue like the elements above. Okay, so this is working well so far. Let's duplicate this. Let's make it smaller. Maybe a 14 could do. Let's write primary again. Okay, I don't know what I did there. Primary. Let's make the one below off. I'm going to make it lighter gray. And let's bring it up here. And here and here. Tertiary. This one's going to be on. This one's going to be secondary at 60%. And we're pretty much set and good to go. All right, so far so good. Let's just make sure that this one is distributed. Oh, actually I need to group also this element right here. Let's just check that the distribution is on point. And now what we're gonna do is we're going to add a section below, which is going to be the bottom level menu. So we're going to have view. Duplicate this a few times. Then academy, if I can still spell, list, and settings. All right. Let's distribute these guys. And we're going to have the first icon, which is going to be user. And let's find an icon of a user, which is going to be this one. Now let's find an icon related to academy. No, school. Can we find something related to school? Yeah, let's use this one. And then list, which is going to be this one right here. And then we're going to have a cog for settings. Cool. So far, so good. Let's unframe all of these elements. Let's make it 30 pixels in width, actually just a little bit smaller. Let's center this one just like that. And let's center these elements. And here we go. Maybe let's make them just a little bit smaller. Just a touch. Yeah, that'll that'll do. I'm going to copy and paste this style onto this element by using Option Command C and Option Command V. And for these other guys right here, I'm actually going to copy the color and then just find a lighter hue for these guys. And maybe just find a smaller, just a bit smaller text. All right, I think this one is working. It's working fine. Let's create a background, just going to be completely white. And I'm going to actually go ahead and add drop shadow over here. Just going to be on the light side, and maybe with a color which hints towards the blue. Just like that. All right. So this is definitely taking shape so far and heading towards the right direction. Now I want to change the hue of these gray text, because I don't really, not really fancying them too much. And yeah, I think overall this is looking good. Let's bring it down just a little bit. Bring it over here. And yeah, we definitely have this this bottom level menu working for us. Now we still need the top level menu. So easiest way to do that is to go in the community, and we're going to search for a mobile UI kit, like pretty much the leanest one that we can find, that we can still, so we can copy it really fast and just leverage one of the top level menus. So let's figure out, or actually instead of Google, I should write iOS. Let's find a quick iOS UI kit, one of the recent ones. Let's try this one here. It's 13, it's one of the older one, but like the top level menu, they don't really change it. So we just need to grab like, actually let's find, is there the regional component? Is there? Oh yeah, we'll simply grab one of these elements here. Yep. Let's see if I copied it correctly. I'm going through everything. Yeah, cool. So just need to, or actually, let's do one thing. This is not responsive. I'm going to delete this guy. Just going to bring this element right here. And we are pretty much set. All right, so far so good. For whatever reason, I thought that I saw difference in size between this one. No, it was just something which my mind made up. Anyways, cool. It's always good to double check. You never are too sure, even after you've done this for a decade. It's always good to check on this stuff. Cool. So we have our very first screen. Now it's time to, first of all, what I realized here is that the menu is not inside of the frame. So now we're going to use Shift plus the Option key plus dragging and we're going to create the setting screen, which is going to have a different style from this one right here. And as you're going to see in just a moment, I want to mix things up just a little bit. And we're going to essentially work our way. Let's write here general settings. Going to make it smaller, 16. And ideally, whenever you're working on a mobile project, you're going to set up some text styles, some layer names, so that you have a level of consistency. Like here, I'm freestyling a bit, but ideally afterwards, you would actually be going into the design file and figuring out all the details, setting the styles, and just use those styles throughout the project in order to maintain maximum design consistency throughout. So just a heads up on that. Now let's applicate this a few times. Now the issue with this is that we need to group it before, so that we can then leverage and change the spacing if we didn't got it right the first time, like in this case. So as you can see, we can easily pull that that point. I'm going to write here up version 1.1.10 updated. I'm going to center this guy. Now let's write the different settings. So this one's going to be currency. This one's going to be text size. This one below is going to be tutorials, notifications, security, and privacy, and user info, and then general settings. All right, so looks like the screen has been tackled pretty much, but we are still missing one important element, which is we're going to, just for the sake of it, going to change the color of the bottom level menu. And is this good UI, is this bad UI? Really depends on the context, but in this case we're creating something conceptual which looks good. We're also like presenting some ideas to our client between the white and the dark blue navigation. We can discuss the pros and cons so that we can educate the client. So we're going to make that assumption pretty much. All right, so that's that. Let's move on to the dashboard. Let's go over here. We're going to just delete all of these. So we're going to get rid of this one as well. Now let's create a oval, big oval, and just gonna give it a stroke. Let's change the basic color to something like that. Let's increase the size just a little bit, and let's center it up. Now I'm going to create a duplicate of this oval. I'm going to give it a completely different color. Let's I'm just going to go ahead and basically try and figure out a way to round up these corners. Yep, just like that. Now comes the fun part, which is trying to match this one over here. Now, for whatever reason, this is not really working as it is. If I make it smaller, which is because I don't want to cover like the entire, yeah, something like that could work well. All right, and going to add some text inside. Here's going to be 39%. Center it. Let's bring it up a notch. And let's also copy this text right here. Let's put it in the center and let's bring it right below. Let's write completed. And let's increase the letter spacing in between the words. And we're also going to make this gray. And let's bring this down just a notch. All right, it's looking good so far. Now I'm going to add a oval right here. Going to make it blue. Call this primary. And the second one, yeah, you guessed it, it's going to be secondary, which at the moment is not present in this graph. So that's that, and let's create a duplicate of this text right here. So it's going to be 35%. Let's make it smaller. And let's make it regular. And also another thing that we need to do is to add a line right here, or a rectangle, round it up all the way, and we're going to make this gray and then duplicate this and use this other color, and we're gonna do the same for the secondary. So this one's going to be 74%. It's going to be longer. I'm going to make it red. Now let's duplicate this one more time. I'm going to write in tertiary and then quaternary. Is this even a word? I guess it is now, at least in our reality in this tutorial. All right, so far so good. You know the drill by now. Let's make this gray. Let's change this to give it a 61% value, and we're going to bring it all the way here, and this one's going to be 19%. Let's make it smaller, just like that. We're also going to add a bottom bar, which is like classic bottom bar that we find on iOS devices, just as a reference in this very concept. All right, we also have the dashboard now, apparently. Now we only miss the investment part. Alright, at this point we're ready to move on to the very next and last screen, which is going to be the investment screen. So let's go ahead over here and let's add the investment panel. So we're going to create a line, and we're going to actually span it across all the width of the investment, and or actually of the investment of the width of the grid. So let's increase the size just a little bit. We're going to basically bring and round up completely this line. I'm going to create a duplicate, bring it over here, give it the same color of the other blue graph. I'm going to give it a slider, which is going to have a drop shadow, just so that we can basically figure out where the dividing lines of this section. And let's increase the blur just a little bit, but it's really visible. And I think this is working pretty well. Now we're going to duplicate this. We're going to give it a value of 20,000. Let's center it. And let's make it smaller, just a little bit. Let's center it again. And here we go. All right. Let's bring it over here. And let's increase the height a bit. Let's write transaction fee. I'm going to copy and paste this style. Bring it here to the center. Add the amount. And after that, I'm going to just center these guys, bring them down just a little bit, so we can give some breathing room to the section below. And now what we're gonna do next is we're going to duplicate 1-2 times, match the lines. Just like that. I'm going to write total. I'm going to write balance over here. Bring the total to the right as well. And here we're going to write another amount. Let's add some text over here. Or actually, just going to grab this guy, add some Lipsum text, make it smaller, bring it over here. Yep. I'm just going to add 2 lines of this, center it, a little bit of line height in between, bring it over here, and we're set. All right, now what we need is just a confirmation button. Just going to have this style like that, and let's add a text, which is going to be the continue or pay and continue. I'm going to make it white. Let's bring it over here. Let's make it just a little bit smaller, and we are pretty much set and ready to go. Right, at this point you would simply go ahead and clean up the file, sync all the components to master components, text styles, color styles like I mentioned in the other videos, and you're pretty much ready to move on and rock and roll. So we hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the very next one.